Why are we talking about releasing the captives? Is anyone really a captive? Because you seem to be seated here, you are well dressed, everything seems all right. It is obvious to you that nobody is holding your hands. So why do we still speak about releasing the captives? Because simply captivity means that there is a force that is greater than you that is controlling what you are doing. You may not see this force. Sometimes you can see it. In the areas where you see it, it becomes a physical action of imprisonment. You can be imprisoned. In the areas where you don't see it, it can be spiritual, which is the one that is most deadly. Captivity is either physical or spiritual. The ones you see by way of imprisonment are physical. The one you see by way of restraint by a force greater than you is physical. But there are those that you don't see that can even impact your existence much more than the physical. So we must acknowledge the fact of the existence of captivity. So I'm going to try to break it down in the areas in which I think they are relevant to our lives. First of all, a nation can be in captivity. A nation can be in captivity. And everyone in that nation can be enslaved by a force that is greater than that country. Because 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 19 tells us that by what a man is overcome, by that which he is enslaved. Anything that can overcome you can actually enslave you. So nations can be enslaved. And I think the biblical example is very clear. In Exodus chapter 1. Exodus chapter 1. You begin to read from verse 11 to 13. You can see that the nation of Israel was living under duress. They were shackled. They were tied. They were made to work heavy schedules of work. They built the pyramids. They tilled the ground. And all of that for nothing. And they remained in this captivity for donkey years, centuries. So a nation can be held captive until God had compassion on them and sent Moses to come and free the children of Israel. And I want you to look at the pattern of behavior of the children of Israel when Moses came to save them. Anytime they did something contrary to what Moses said, there was a swift punishment. All those who were rebellious, who failed to obey the instructions of Moses, never got to the promised land. Which means your freedom from captivity is dependent upon your ability to follow the instructions of God, for your ability to be obedient. There are countries other than Israel which we can speak about that have been put in captivity. There was a country which between July 6, 1967 and January 12, 1970 was besieged by gunmen. Relentlessly, they tried to emasculate this country. These gunmen plundered the territory, killed the children, raped the women, And as at the last count, about 1.5 million citizens of this country were killed. So a country can be enslaved. A country can be put in bondage. It was that act of siege was lifted and the people were set free physically. So when you find yourself in a situation that is similar to what happens in the Bible, to the state of Israel, and to what happened to that country, you can situate yourself in your present Nigeria. There are communities that have been overrun by gunmen. Everyone there has been sacked. The inhabitants of these communities have been herded into an enclosure, a pen, a prison, which they call IDPs. People live all their lives inside the IDPs. They have their babies there, they go to school there. They are in a form of captivity. Make no mistake about it. When that type of thing comes down to your area, you will feel the pain of being a captive. The only way that is open to you, which we will come to, is that you will need to seek the representative of Moses. How he was able to save the children of Israel, we will need a Moses of our time. Someone who can take us out of this physical captivity. It is in your hands, by way of prayer and by way of doing things that can make you release yourself, because this is the year of release. You cannot allow this year to pass you by. You must do everything in your power to seek to be released from your present condition. And what is the present condition of Nigeria? Let me just spend a minute there. Our situation is that we are broke and we are broken. We are broken as a country along tribal lines, religious lines. The national debt of Nigeria is 41.7 trillion. Did you hear me? The national debt of Nigeria is 41.7 trillion. And $11.7 billion. Even your own grandchildren will not be able to pay back this debt if they start paying today. Somebody has sold your inheritance, your children's inheritance, your grandchildren's inheritance ahead of time. Even before they were born, they are already captive to debt. And there is no single way this thing can be paid, because 93% of the revenue of this country is spent on debt servicing. The remaining 3% is used to pay petroleum subsidy. The government now prints money to pay salaries in your own country. You are a captive. You are sitting here, you think you are comfortable, but I tell you, you are a captive. But it is in your hands to try and free yourself. You have the chance in this year of Jubilee. Between now and the next convention is the year of Jubilee. You have the chance to free yourself. And I encourage you to do that. Somebody will come up and declare himself to be the Moses of our times, the way Moses saved the children of Israel. All that you need to do is to be obedient. It is as simple as that. Praise the Lord. A city can be imprisoned. A city can be in captivity. Apart from a nation, I just give the example of nations. A city can be a captive. Back to the Bible. Of Jericho was besieged, and children of Israel. In the book of Joshua, chapter 16, verses 17 and 26, we are told how Joshua and the children of Israel overran the city of Jericho. Joshua placed a curse on the city of Jericho. And that curse lasted for centuries. But the primary ingredients of that curse was that anyone who attempted to rebuild the walls of Jericho will pay the supreme price of his first son and his last son. You would imagine anybody who sought to free the city of Jericho from that curse, knowing the price to be paid, would definitely run away. But a certain gentleman, at verse 34, the man took it upon himself to rebuild the walls of Jericho. And he paid the supreme price with his first son, with his last son. To me, that the intention to obtain your freedom can sometimes come with sacrifices. Nobody can be free without paying some price. In fact, if they take you to a bar and they say, come and get bail, you will see the notice, bail is free. But try and get inside there. You will not get out without paying some price. Praise the Lord. The city of Jericho was left helpless. There was nothing they could do. They waited for centuries until Elisha became the prophet of God. And they complained to him. Say, oh God, this our town is finished. It's good to live in. The houses are beautiful. But this place, very, very barren. It's unproductive. Elisha simply said, at 2 Kings chapter 2, at verse 19, 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 19, Elisha said, look, just go and get me a cruse of salt. He then went to the source of the bitterness in that community and cured the bitterness even unto this day. So a city can be imprisoned, and then that same city can be liberated. I do not know about your condition in Lagos. You know, many people come to Lagos with their feet. You enter a vehicle, you come with your feet. You live in this city. But my experience is that most people leave Lagos with their heads in a casket. Only very few people leave Lagos of their own volition. They actually live in a casket.